Hi everyone. Very good evening and welcome back to Grade B. So today we will be discussing about the accounting of right issue of shares, right, and some provisions would also be discussing from the Companies Act, right. What have been the provisions of Companies Act related to the right issue, and this is going to be our topic of discussion. We will be solving an MCQ as well. Okay, Shubham, I have noted your query, right? And yesterday also I took the note of it and we'll surely do something about it. Fine? And I although replied for this yesterday as well, because see, we have to take into consideration all kinds of students who are going to appear for the exam, both commerce and non-commerce. So that is the thing. Chaliye, anyways, let's start talking about the accounting of right issue. So in case of right issue of shares, there are two kinds of share issue that can happen. Actually, three kinds of. Number one is we have the fresh issue of shares. Number two, we have the right issue of shares. And number three, we have the bonus issue of shares, right? Bonus issue. Now, bonus issue, in that particular case, what is going to happen? That are issued free of cost. Number one, right? In case of right issues, yes, we are issuing the shares, but these shares are going to be issued at discount. Not totally free of cost, but yes, you will be having some of the benefits. Both in case of right issue of shares as well as the bonus issue of shares, the shares are issued to the existing shareholders. ठीक है, हमारे जो existing shareholders हैं, हम उन्हीं को issue करते हैं. Now, before I start talking about it, see over here. So, whosoever our existing shareholders are, to whom we have issued fresh issue of shares, and those who are associated with us, we can give them two kinds of shares. Number one is right issue. That means company is going to issue the shares and you can purchase them at a discounted price, right, at a lower price. And then we have bonus issue of shares. Bonus issue, why I have written this like this is, bonus issue is also called as capitalization of reserves. This is also called as capitalization of reserves, and over here we are issuing the shares free of cost to our existing shareholders in case of bonus issue. Now just wait. Yes. So that is the thing. In relation to that, over here the price is going to be less, over there the price is going to be nil, and that is why it is called as the capitalization of reserve. Having discussed this, we also have to discuss what is the valuation of right in this particular chapter, and we have included a question in order to solve that with clarity, because that is the kind of question which can provide you a confusion with, right? So that is the thing. Now let's see. Right issue is when the company issues its existing shareholders a right. When we say a right, it does not mean an obligation, right? You are not obligated to buy the share. आपको खरीदना नहीं है. It is just the right that has been provided to you. You wish to take it, you can. You don't want to take it, leave it, right? So that is what something we are called as right issue. Over here, company is giving specific number of shares at a specific price. The company will also set a time limit, that this is the time limit. If you want to exercise this particular option, you can exercise this within this particular given time period, right? If a shareholder does not take the company upon their right issue, then they have the option to sell their right. Now we will discuss this. There are different kinds of right issue that are involved, okay? And if the option has been provided to you that you can renounce your right. Renounce your right means I am an existing shareholder and I'm not interested in buying shares of the company any longer. मुझे और shares नहीं चाहिए. So what I can do is I can give my right to somebody else. मैं बोल दूंगी कि मुझे नहीं चाहिए. If you want to take it, you can. And obviously I'm not going to do that for free of cost. मैं free of cost तो नहीं करने वाली. Suppose the market price of the share is 150 rupees. That is the market price. Company is saying to me that you can buy this particular share from us at 120 rupees. आप हमसे 120 में ले लो. So I will sell this particular right to somebody else at 130. 10 rupees I am going to keep in my pocket. ठीक है, 10 रुपए मैं अपनी जेब में रख लूंगी. Why? Because I am an existing shareholder and I have got this right, not you. So 10 rupees I am going to earn this on it. Fine. Now the types of right issue of shares, that is something theoretical part, we can see it. Number one, fully paid right issue. So when an applicant has to pay the entire issue amount at the time of application, that is called as the fully paid right issue, right? Next is partly paid right issue. So over here at the time of application, you only have to pay a part amount, right? Or only a portion of the amount, not the complete amount. So that is something we will be calling as partly paid right issue. Then we have renounceable right issue. Renounceable right issue का मतलब क्या? In this case, the right issue can be transferred or sold in the open market to other investors. If I am not interested in taking up this particular right shares, अगर मुझे ये right shares नहीं चाहिए, so what I can do is I can renounce this in favor of somebody else, right? And when a renounceable rights holder does not wish to subscribe to his rights, he can opt to transfer his rights to somebody else, to another investor. Now on the contrary to it, we have non-renounceable rights issue as well. Non-renounceable rights issue क्या होंगे? Over here, company includes a clause that you cannot give it to somebody else, right? So over here, this kind of right issue cannot be transferred or sold to anyone. When the renounceable right issue holder is no more willing to exercise his right, it will have only option to give up his right and let the right issue lapse. That means I cannot take any kind of benefit of this kind of rights issue. इस तरीके के rights issue का मैं कोई benefit नहीं ले सकती हूँ. That is a non-renounceable rights issue for you. Now apart from that, it is very important for us to understand. This is for the sake of understanding. ठीक है, this particular part is for the sake of understanding that why does company brings out right issue of shares. See, your company is a development oriented company and you will be requiring the funds from time to time. Now in any case, if you require the funds, you have got two options. Either go for the debt or go for the own capital. ठीक है, that is the owner's capital or your own funds. Now in this particular case, what is going to happen is, if you go for debt, there are benefits and what you can say disadvantages of the same. If you go for the rights issue or the issue of shares, there are disadvantages over there as well. If the existing shareholders, they take up the right shares, well and good. But if somebody else comes in case of renounceable right issue, suppose I am an existing shareholder and I have given my right to somebody else. मैंने अपना right किसी और को दे दिया. Somebody else has came into the picture and they have subscribed to such kind of shares. So don't you think that the control is going to be diluted? ठीक है, कंट्रोल जो है वो डाइल्यूट हो जाएगा and this is what we are talking about over here. So what can be the reasons for right issue of shares? Number one, obviously, as a company you want to grow and you need extra money for that. ठीक है, आपको extra money raise करना है. But at the same time, as an investor, as an existing shareholder, I would like to know that why does company needs this amount? कंपनी को ये पैसा चाहिए ही क्यों? Right. Number one thing is they might need it for a developmental expenditure. Well, good. We can provide the amount for that particular purpose. But suppose you have to pay off a debt and for that matter you need this fund. So now as an investor, I need to be a calculative one. ठीक है, मुझे इन्वेस्ट करना चाहिए या नहीं करना चाहिए, because the object for which you are raising the right issue is not very valid one. Okay. So let's see this. This shows you have been inefficient while managing your funds. So a company will offer more shares to its shareholders to raise extra money for the company. Now, a company with poor cash flow will often use a right issue to increase the cash flow and pay off existing debt, and this is something which is a questionable thing. Although as an investor you are already an existing shareholder, so you would never like that company should default onto its debt. आपको कभी ये पसंद नहीं होगा कि कंपनी अपने जो डेट्स पे डिफॉल्ट करे. So for that matter you can give as well. Now, right issue, however, are sometimes issued by the company with a healthy balance sheet as well, because they want to do research and development. And for that matter, they require funds. Now, discounted shares issued by the company can be tempting, but it is also important to find out the reason for the right issue of shares. A valid reason is very, very important as an investor in order to invest in the right issue. A company, for example, may be using the right issue as a quick cash fix, and this is something which is problematic, right? So, in such kind of cases, caution is advised. Now, where at any time a company having a share capital proposes to increase its subscribed capital by issue of further shares, such shares shall be offered to persons who at the date of offer are the holders of equity shares in proportion as nearly as the circumstances admit, right, subject to the following conditions. Now, what are the following conditions while you are going to offer the right shares? Let's see this. See, so the offer shall be made by notice specifying what are the number of shares that is being offered, limiting a time frame not being less than 15 days and not exceeding 30 days from the date of offer, within which, if not accepted, shall deem to have been declined. That means within 15 to 30 days. You have got the time period of 15 days to accept the offer. Unless the articles otherwise provide, the offer shall be deemed to include a right exercisable by the person to renounce the shares offered to him. That means this is the by default setting. ठीक है, ये default है that if you have been provided with the right shares, you have got the right to renounce it as well. ठीक है, आपको right of renunciation भी है. Right of renunciation means if I as a shareholder I do not want to exercise the right shares, I can give it to somebody else. मैं किसी और को भी दे सकती हूँ. Next is, after the expiry of time specified in the notice or on the receipt of earlier intimation to whom such notice has been given, the board of directors may dispose of them in such manner which is not disadvantageous to the shareholders and the company. Now, all those rights which have not been accepted, they are obviously going to lapse. Now, some key information that is important to understand over here, that while you are offering the right shares, this particular part has been taken from the Companies Act, right? What are the forms that you have to file with the ROC? ROC is Registrar of Companies. So, number one, form MGT 14. MGT 14 is the form which is filed with the ROC. See, in any kind of company, all kinds of decisions are taken on the resolutions. Resolution के basis पे आपके decision लिए जाते हैं. Resolution is that this is the thing we have accepted and we have passed, right? So all such kind of decisions has to be submitted with the ROC as well. So once the resolution has been passed, the company needs to file the form MGT 14 with ROC within 30 days of passing such resolution. It is mandatory for the public limited companies, right? Now, then we have form PAS 3. It is return of allotment. So when you have given the allotment to the shareholders or whosoever has subscribed to your right issue after the conclusion of second board meeting and you have allotted the shares, the company needs to file form PAS 3 with the ROC within 30 days. This particular form must be filed with an attachment of list of shareholders to whom the shares have been allotted, right? So this is an additional information. These are the two forms that needs to be filed with the ROC while you are going for the right shares, right? Please try to remember this. Now, coming to the important part, that is valuation of right. Now, before we start doing the valuation of right, I would like to tell you one more thing. This is in the extras. While you are issuing the right shares, how you are going to account for it? चलो पहले क्वेश्चन कर लेते हैं, फिर इसके बारे में बात करेंगे. So usually a company offers right issue at a price which is lower than the market price of the shares, so that existing shareholders, they will have the benefit of investing. Suppose in the market the share price is 150 rupees, right, and I am telling to my shareholders, then you can take the you can take up the shares from me at 150 only. They will say, what is the benefit we are having? कोई benefit नहीं है हमें. It's better we'll go to the market and we'll buy the shares. Why to buy that from you as a company? So that is why when you are trying to give the shares to existing shareholders, you have to provide that at a reduced price. I'm not saying that it should be lower than the face value of share. No. Face value is the basic value for which the shares has been issued, right? For example, a face value of share could be 100 rupees and in the market it is having a market price of 250 rupees, right? So we are issuing the right share lesser than the market price, not lesser than the face value. Face value से कम पे हम नहीं जा रहे हैं. Existing shareholders who have been offered the right shares and who do not want to purchase this, they may renounce their rights in favor of some other persons within the specified period, and by doing this they can make a profit. I don't want to exercise, but I have received a benefit and I want to make benefit out of this particular claim. ठीक है, मुझे इससे फायदा उठाना है, तो अब कैसे उठा सकते हैं? Let's see this. So value of right. Value of right is come right value of shares less x right value of shares. What does that mean? Come right value of shares का मतलब क्या? When the shares had right option with them, what was the market price at that particular time? Then right issue has been done. Post that, what has been the market price of the shares? If I talk conceptually, this is what we are trying to say when we are talking about the value of right. Now come right value of shares and all of this, how we are going to calculate? We are going to understand this with the following example, right? Let's see this. Over here I'm not talking about it over here because आपको भी समझ में नहीं आएगा, तो पहले हम example के through देखते हैं. See, assume 1000 shares are issued, making it a right issue of 1:10 or 1 new share for the 10 existing shares held. If I am already holding 10 shares, then I will be allotted with 1 share as a right issue. Now, what is the price? 14 per share. The existing worth of the tangible assets which has been held by the business shall become 2,64,000. Existing net worth is 2,50,000. Fresh issue 14,000. ठीक है, 250 plus 14,000, your tangible assets are going to become 2,64,000. Now equity shares will obviously have a valuation of 2,64,000, right? So now what is going to be the X right value of shares? How we are going to calculate is 2,50,000, which is the assets valuation before, plus what is the value which you will be receiving? Cash. You are going to receive cash when you will issue right shares. ठीक है? So 2,50,000 plus 14 rupees per share multiplied by 1,000 shares. That means 14,000 rupees divided by what were your existing shares and the new shares. ठीक है? What were your existing shares and the new shares? So 24 is the value of right. देखो, let me explain you. That is the come right price. And this is after the right issue. Before right issue, 2,50,000, that was your asset valuation. This is going to be the value of your shares as well. And how many number of shares you had? 10,000. So that means 25 rupees. X right means 2,50,000 worth of assets we had earlier. 14,000 rupees we received in cash. 10,000 shares we had earlier. 1,000 new shares we have raised. Right? And this gives us 24. That is the X right price. So value of this particular right is 1 per share. This is how right valuation is done. ठीक है, this is how your right valuation is done. Come right, that is before the right issue, inclusive, then X right after the right shares. What is the valuation of shares? What is the valuation of shares? The difference is your value of right. Fine. Now there are certain exceptions to right of existing shareholders. That is also something we are going to do. But first, let's see another example. So, a company is planning to raise funds by making right issue of equity shares to finance its expansion. Now, the existing equity share capital of the company is 50 lakh rupees. Market value of the share is 42 rupees. The company offers to its shareholders right to buy 2 shares at 11 each for every 5 shares held. That means the ratio is 2:5. For every 5 shares held, you can take 2 right shares, right? And what is the price at which you can take? 11 rupees is the price at which you can take. Market price right now is the 42 rupees. Now you need to calculate market price after rights issue and the value of rights. राइट आपको ये चीज कैलकुलेट करनी है. नाउ लेट अस डू दैट. See, in the previous question we were provided with the valuation of asset. ठीक है, हमारे पास asset valuation था 2,50,000. We divided it with the 10,000 number of shares and we got that what is the per share value. Okay. Now over here we have not been provided with the asset valuation. हमें नहीं पता हमारी assets कितने की है. So we are going to take the market price, right, directly. So market value of the 5 shares which has already been held by the shareholder. 5 shares जो shareholder के पास already हैं and each share is having the value of 42 rupees. Directly market price is given to us. That before rights issue, this is the market price which is currently going on in the market. So 210 rupees it is. Fine. Now price to be paid by him for acquiring 2 more shares. अगर उसको 2 और shares चाहिए तो वो कितना देगा? 11 rupees per share, that is 22 rupees. So total price 232, 210 plus 22, and therefore theoretical market price of the share. Now this is exactly what we have done previously, right? 210, that is the existing value of our shares, plus 22 rupees, that is what the amount we are getting from the right shares. 5 shares we are already holding, 2 shares more, and this is how we got the X right price. That means after the issue of right shares, this is the X right price, that is 33.14. What was the come right price? Come right price means before the right issue of shares, right? So come right price is this 42 rupees. X right price is 33 and this is your value of right 8.86. Same kind of concept is there, but the method of presenting the data is different. ठीक है, और it is very easy to do that as well. So for that matter, you can write the mail onto the official mail ID, right? And if you are not very clear about it, Apurva, so what you can do is you can give a call as well during the office timings. So the admin team is going to guide you better on it. Fine. Chaliye, so that is a certain thing. Now talking about when we will be issuing the right shares, how our journal entries is going to look like. Fine. कैसे दिखेंगी? तो number 1 is I am going to receive the money. So bank account will be debited. Suppose 11 rupees. Then certain amount I will take it to my equity share capital, which talks about face value 10 rupees. Then security premium. Anything that you have charged over and above face value is going to go into security premium. Right? So this is how your accounting entry will look like. The amount that you have received in cash will go to bank. Okay. Face value will be credited in the equity share capital, and anything above than the face value which you have received will go to the security premium reserve. वो आपका security premium में जाएगा. Now, as per Companies Act, there are certain exceptions as well for the right issue. So let's see that. So section 62 of the Companies Act, this pertains to right shares, recognizes 4 situations under which further shares are to be issued by the company, but they need not to be offered to the existing shareholders. They are further shares, but they are not offered to the existing shareholders. For example, to employees, that we provide under the employee stock option. To any person, either for cash or for a consideration other than cash, if the price of such shares is determined by the valuation report of a registered valuer. Sometimes what happens is, suppose I have purchased a machinery and I want to settle the payment of that particular machinery in terms of shares. ठीक है, shares के through payment करना चाहती हूँ. I am saying that I don't have money right now, you can take up my shares. So in that way as well, shares are being issued, but not necessarily to the existing shareholders. We are issuing the shares, but not to existing shareholders. Next, sometimes companies borrow money through debenture loans and give their creditors an option to buy the equity shares as well. This option is a right but not an obligation to buy equity shares on a future date. For example, convertible debentures. Convertible debenture says that at the time of maturity of debenture, the debenture holder has the option that they can take the cash or they can convert the debentures into equity shares as well. Suppose our company has taken a bank loan. Now it does not have the money to pay for the bank loan, and it says that you can take up our equity shares. आप हमारा equity share ले लो. So again, we are issuing the shares, but we are not issuing to the existing shareholders, and it will not be called as a right issue. Over here, you are giving the right to your creditors. आप अपने creditors को एक अधिकार दे रहे हो, but will not be calling it as a right issue because we are not giving it to the existing shareholder. Next is, it is a special situation where the loan has been obtained from the government. Government in public interest directs the debentures or loan to be converted into equity shares. Again, you are not in a situation that in order to pay off the money, so you can tell to the government that you have the option that you can take up our shares. So in all such cases, you are doing the further issue of shares. You are giving the option to the another party to take up your shares, but such shares will not be called as right shares because right share is something that we give to our existing shareholders only. राइट शेयर्स वही होते हैं जो हम अपने एग्जिस्टिंग शेयर होल्डर्स को देते हैं. And this was the topic of right issue of shares. All the important points have been covered over here. Valuation of right also is something I have covered in 2 ways. If you've got any question related to the calculation part or anything, you can write down in the comment section. And do not forget to like this video if you have understood something out of it. Thank you so much for joining in, and good night everyone.